Politics. We're pushing this whole thing over to make it work just for you. I am Tom McKay, your individually wrapped, perspicuitous, and vitriolic host for 3D Politics. I've got David Van and David Oldham right here with me, the couple of the most important Davids in the Oklahoma area today. Now, we've got a lot of exciting stories here. I'm going to get that thing out of there because it's just driving me insane with that latent delay. You know, we've had an exciting week. What do you guys, before we get into the show, what about your week? Anything exciting? I was cat in the hat today. You guys just wait. I was cat in the hat today. It was probably one of the greatest days of my life at the elementary school, teaching the kids to love learning and reading and letters, sounds.
Yeah, and I just love after last week that you're embracing diversity. That's just a brilliant thing. If you missed last week's show,
and you did it without a dress.
Without a dress.
That's amazing.
Right. I still shave my legs, though.
Yeah. Well, compared to that, I got nothing after that.
Oh, come on.
No, how can we compare?
Because I
mean, we've only been at the Capitol working for everybody else.
Somebody's got to look out for the children.
The funnest thing I did today was listen to the floor debate in the Oklahoma House, and it was delightful, folks. You gotta see it. Pull it up on okhouse.gov.
Oh, really?
Oh, gosh.
Sick and twisted love you have.
Johnny Tadlock and the Urban Democrats of Oklahoma City. He had to teach them a little bit about life outside of the Beltway. It was just awesome. Yeah. But anyway, that was my day.
So, good week for you, too? I mean, other than work, you know, anything, just all work for you?
Busy. We're, the 3 Ds went to the Capitol.
Okay.
Late last week after our show.
So we'll get into that. We're going to talk about the Capitol Chronicles.
Your
personal life, everything good? You dug a ditch?
Just
clean the house,
working,
wash the dishes,
just busy.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to tell us what her name is yet.
Oh yeah. If only. Constitutional grounds keeps me busy.
Yeah.
It's amazing dealing dealing with some Canadian county conservatives who are neither conservative and certainly not
not Canadian?
Not
Canadian.
They're definitely not Canadians, that's for sure.
Well,
listen to what comes out of their mouth, and there's never an A. But they're definitely not constitutional. In fact, they're arguing against the Constitution, and it's been kind of a fun exercise to work through these problems that they want to defend and take it down to where they can't defend it anymore. So that's been fun, but.
Yeah. All right, well, let's get into it then.
Yeah.
I always like to kind of touch base and get it kind of geared in before we roll into the show. But, last week we talked about a lot of stuff, Pete Buttigieg and all that action about ancient history. And, apparently, he's gone. So, I mean, one impactful show from 3D Politics and pow! We
did it.
It was us.
Mostly Tom.
I think it was Tom.
Individually wrapped and perspicuitous vitriolic host. And I got to say that as a disclaimer, for those people who have watched over the last year, let's just do a little history lesson. It was February 23rd of 2019, and I was invited to come out and meet the Davids at Tulsa County Convention at the Pavilion. Now, they were asking me to come out. Actually, it was Lori Gracie that asked me to come out and really be a delegate or, to vote and become part of that. But I arrived with my own vision, and the vision of it was with 3D Politics. I came to the meeting on February 23rd with the whole idea of recruiting the 3 Ds, and that is David Van, David Oldham, and David D'Ambroso, because I knew that I have IQ immunity, and these guys actually have an IQ, and so I wanted to build a show called 3D Politics where I would interview and draw out these inspirational thoughts from these 3 Davids in Oklahoma. And over the last year, we've gotten quite popular and moved down the road to the point where we actually need a disclaimer. So if I say something, you can always love or hate me at Tom E. McKay on Twitter. Find me on Twitter at Tom E. McKay, and like all smart McKays, we spell it M-C-C-A-Y. So anything I say, just to protect these guys from the vitriol, when I say something, it does not necessarily reflect what any of these 3 other guys say, even if he's not here. So, in the future, if you want to reach me about what I've said, Tom E. McKay, at Tom E. McKay on Twitter. And since then, we have moved. It's amazing that we need to fill people in about what we do and why we've done it, because we've done more than a year's worth of shows. We've got couple of hundred episodes up there.
Well, we've got 300 YouTube videos.
300
Over 300
YouTube videos on the idea I created, my idea, my concept. And these two guys have been working for a year to build the audio and the studio and the camera and the
And
layout.
we still suck.
No, wait a minute. We have come a long way.
It's been amazing what we've been through just tonight. Just dealing with some of the technical things that we had all worked out, and they threw us another one.
We've got wires all over this place, computers, we got special cameras, and you know what? We're back to using my spare cell phone right now.
We've worked through getting Rex Lawhorn in here, my first interview, which was, we want to have, if Dan Broso can't make it, we're going to bring somebody else in to sit at the table with us. And I just know that if, regardless of what the YouTube says or what Facebook says, this is not a show for kids. This is not anything having to do with kids. We're going to talk about adult subjects and the way it deals with adult things. So if it says PG-13, ignore it. Get the kids out of the show, and we're going to talk about it. So one of my favorite, let's get on, again, Tom McKay, 3D Politics, right here. These guys making it happen, making my idea come to life. And lawmakers prop up OEA despite radicalism is the headline from OCPA, the Patriots. Brandon Dutcher over there is very quickly becoming one of my favorites. He awesome. Deals them out, and with no vitriol. He just lays out the facts. And this is from February 28th, OCPA, Brandon Dutcher. Under Oklahoma law, he's talking about several years now, Oklahoma Republican lawmakers have done the bidding of National Education Association and its state affiliate OEA by refusing to enact common sense pro-teacher union reform bill. Now, the OEA is one of my nemesis on Twitter. They have the Fight for Funding, which is a total fraud site, suggesting just the other day that I responded to that food is a school supply. Well, this is just basic logic of basic word meaning, semantics, and basic definition of words. Once again, food is a provision of a kitchen. Doesn't have anything to do with education directly. So that's one of the big problems with the OEA, is that they are promoted and funded by the NEA, and they are definitely a fraudulent organization pushing stuff over Fight for Funding on Twitter. Under Oklahoma law, back to the OCPA Patriots, according to Brandon Dutcher's article, under Oklahoma law, you do not have to join a teachers union, but if you are a teacher, but you do join one of your, if you do, one of your choices limited to whatever entity has been certified by your school. The certification vote was often taken, decades ago. The point here is that in Oklahoma, as a teacher, you're not required by law to join a union. But
thank God.
I have family members in the education industry. My grandmother taught Tulsa Public Schools over 40 years. My mother taught Tulsa Public Schools over 20 years. My daughter teaches in the public schools today. And when they did the strike, the teacher strike, and
2 years ago.
2 years ago, and that was not a walkout. Again, they try to use words that don't mean what they mean. It was a strike. They called it a walkout.
Well, it was a wildcat strike.
It was totally a wildcat strike. People that I know and love were essentially peer pressured into going to the Capitol to faux pretend that they supported the protest, because otherwise they would face retaliation.
Well, they did support the protest ultimately, did they not?
No, they didn't. The ones that I know had to go basically to save face and job. They were forced through peer pressure. Now, it says here, also, they explain that if a transgender reading, they get into the transgender reading, but what I'm saying is they support the teachers go to the union meetings out of an obligation to get their paycheck. And many of the people, the teachers that went to the Capitol 2 years ago, went not on the front lines, but because they were trying to
Now,
save.
see, I completely disagree with that mindset. I not only was a scab during when I worked for the telephone company and the union decided we weren't getting paid well enough and needed to go out on strike, and I did not participate. I not only didn't participate, I counter protested. So and you know what? It never harmed my paycheck for a second. And I did not have.
But
I did not have.
what
do they call it? Where you keep your job forever? What do they call that?
Tenure.
I did not have tenure.
But
So-
did your tires get slashed? That's what I,
No, nor did my paint get keyed.
yeah, okay.
But
Good.
my point is that, and especially now schools have so many cameras, you're not going to have to worry about that too much. But the point is that I think that it's a real crock, and no offense to your family or friends,
this is what we're
but
here
the
for.
thing is that it's a crock that it's the same excuse of the Nazis. Well, I just had to go along. I just
true.
couldn't do anything about it.
Right.
And by not doing anything about it, they become a part of the problem, and it's time that ended. Grow a pair,
Yeah.
Each
and
person. Go
push
ahead.
back.
Van.
Well, the specifics on here, I think the bill had to do with the people's ability to retain their vote in secret, right?
That's correct.
And
Oh,
so,
is that what we're?
yeah,
is that the
no.
bill we're talking
Let's
about?
just
Yeah.
go a little history back
Why
to
send us off in a direction?
right,
Right.
but
Let's talk about the bill. Give a rundown of the bill.
But no, what I want to say here, give us a little history. 20 years ago, almost to the day, Mary Fallon was lieutenant governor, and she did one of the bravest things. Of all of Mary Fallon's history, I'm going to always brag on her for this. The Democrats controlled the Senate. But nonetheless, Governor Keating, Republican governor, had the votes that if it came to a floor vote to move this resolution, so you put it on the ballot. Are we going to be what's called a right-to-work state?
Right.
Okay. The leadership, the Democrats, wouldn't let that go to a vote of the people. So Mary Fallon walks in, as is her authority, in the Senate. She grabs the gavel anytime she wants to. She calls up the bill. Jim Williamson, a whole bunch of others were all set to go. They called it up for a vote, and they got the votes on the floor, even though the Senate Democrat leadership didn't want it.
Right.
That was supposed to end this mandatory thing where the union could have you fired if you didn't pay them. It's called extortion
Right.
when the mob
Right.
does it.
Right.
So, but what they've been using is these heavy-handed things like, no, you got to vote in front of everybody. Everybody gets to see your vote,
Right.
and all these things. And so this bill, who was that from? Nathan Dahm?
From Nathan.
Nathan Dahm says, you know what? You're working for a government entity. The government's going to protect your right to privacy and how you vote about your own contract.
Correct.
Okay? And so that's kind of the setup here, I want to say.
Yeah, to the dues, there's $466 in dues paid by Oklahoma teachers to the OEA. This is circa 2017-18. $189 out of that 466 went to Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
To the NEA. And that money helps directly and indirectly fund NEA programs and events like the Transgender Reading Day. Now, the Transgender Reading Day, look it up if you haven't seen it. It's where the transgenders come and dance sexually in front of children. The way that they push this is because the union promotes it, and if you want out of it, I kind of butchered this thing from the OCPA. The certification vote in the schools happens every 4 years. If you want to decertify the union, if you are a teacher, who does not want to be a member of the union or that union, or you don't get a union to pick from that you like. You have to decertify the union that was already voted on
Correct.
your school decades ago.
Correct.
This is the process is onerous and most significantly requires the teachers to publicly identify as a union critic and open themselves up to retaliation. This is the thing that my loved ones were involved in, where they could not say, I'm against it. Now, some people are not as strong or in a position to retaliate against these things against us, and so some people saved more Jews in Hitler's time than others.
So my dad worked for a city government in Minnesota growing up, and because of a number of things they're doing, my dad actually helped organize a union to come in.
Okay.
On the day when the union mediation arbitration, I think, was part of this, they came in to set up the vote because they monitored it. That was a private vote. That was a secret ballot. So what I'm saying is the vote to go in and unionize gets to be private, but the vote to get out or to change directions or to change your funding, now all of a sudden you've lost your privacy that you used to have before you were union. You had more rights as an individual before you were union.
That's
Well,
correct.
and that's
Standard
true.
procedure.
That's going to be true because the union can come in and put in their own rules, and they put in onerous rules that run counter to your rights. But you've signed on to that by being a teacher and signing on to the union.
Yes.
That's a good point. Because ultimately this is up to a union, and the OEA could respect that privacy. They choose not to. That ought to tell you something about the nature of the union.
Right. And what is it I've said before? The group picks you, not the other way around. You don't get to pick your group. The union picks you.
Yeah.
And the minute you take your individual sovereignty and blend it into the group, you just lost your sovereignty to the group. It is group rights above individual rights.
So we were at the Capitol. We'll get into it later. But what I saw is they're still falling in love with that apple, and they still fear in the legislature. They fear that teacher caucus.
Yeah.
Well, there's that teacher caucus controls too much of the electorate.
Yeah.
Let's face it. I
The
mean,
teachers are controlled by the unions.
Yeah. Now, having said
the
that,
teachers don't control anything.
well, they're
s-
mostly controlled by the administrators union.
Yeah.
Teachers
Now,
have control of their classroom, and that's about it.
Now,
and barely that.
okay, this I have a problem with. Having said that, there are some people that came there because they had teacher support that are doing a fairly decent job. Some of them scoring high in my index, Freedom Index and stuff like that. But I have a problem with just this one thing. I think this was a big defection of the teacher caucus over to the liberal side, the leftist side. That's not saying that, I have a problem with every one of their votes, but I definitely, have a problem with this.
So I want to finish this off with this last thing. I have I haven't really given great duty to this OCPA piece from Brandon Dutcher, but the point that he makes, because I've kind of butchered the concepts here, but the biggest point that he makes, and this should hit you when you vote. You should understand when you vote, you're creating a situation at the school. This is from the article, if Transgender Reading Day occurs at your child's school, don't just blame the OEA, NEA, the teachers' unions, like I've said. Ask the Oklahoma Republicans, who controls the state legislature, when they continue to preserve the union's grip on local schools.
Yeah.
Come on, Republicans. Let's fix this thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, you're watching 3D Politics. Tom McKay, your vitriolic host, with 2 out of the 3 Davids right here on 3D